Fellas, in today's video, I'll be covering the Winter Soldier, Bucky, in this Ultimate Marvel Rivals guide. Bucky is a duelist who shines at a close to medium range and playing with their team. You can also pull in single targets, making eliminations by your team a lot easier. Bucky does not take long to learn, but will require a few games to properly get the hang of. He will definitely shine with the FPS players and those skilled at flicking, since you can nail targets with headshots, but even if you miss, its bullets do an area of effect. Divers and fast-moving targets won't be too big of a problem, as Bucky has the perfect tool for dealing with them. In this video, his combos, his playstyle, and more will be covered, so whether you're new to him or need a Season 1 refresher, this video will be for you. His offensive toolkit consists of his basic attack, which is ranged, and does an area of effect, his hook shot on his arm, which pulls in enemies and damages those around them, an orb shot that can slow targets and pierces. This also knocks down those flying enemies. This is great for dealing with Spider-Man and Storm. Next, his dash attack, snatching up enemies and then sending them upwards, damaging 2 times. Lastly, and probably what he's most known for, his ultimate, which makes it easier to kill enemies and can be used repeatedly under certain conditions. His support defensive kit has his passive, which will let Bucky reload with most of his abilities. This also grants bonus health depending on the ability. Topping off with his team up, which gives him infinite ammo and increased rate of fire. That's fairly straightforward, so let's dive deeper into his abilities. Starting off with his basic attack, Roto Stern. This is a 3-round gun that rapidly fires and takes about a second to reload. It does about 75 damage per hit, with the critical shots doing even more. Depending on how you aim and how close enemies are together, you can get an area of effect which will do about 65 damage, but this isn't something you should constantly be going for, as even aiming at the ground will not create that area of effect. I find it mostly happens when you get headshots. This does have a damage fall off starting around 20 or so meters, and as you go further back, you'll do less and less, even with critical hits. So playing at a closer to medium range will be the most effective way to play. And then one important thing to know is that the foes who do get hit by the impact will not take the area of effect, so you can't double stack like that. His next ability is the bionic hook, the hook shot. And when you do use this, it has a charge up to 4 seconds, but takes about a second or so to fully charge. And then when you launch it, it pulls in enemies, doing about 15 or so damage. And then enemies that are really close by, even this distance is way too far, will take an additional 20 damage as well. It has an 8-second cooldown, and so the range is 10 meters uncharged. But when you have a fully charged, you can hit up to 20 meters. So this will often be used with your team for enemy isolation to catch them and deal some good damage. It's also useful if they're trying to run away, that way you can charge it and aim it and then catch them again. Tainted Voltage is one of his most useful abilities. When you do use it, it deals 55 damage with a 6-second cooldown, and this will also slow enemies for 2 seconds. It does pierce, making it very useful, and when you have flyers, it can knock them out of the sky, offering an incredible counter to the other team who may want to focus on your backline, as well as those in the main action like Storm. So even if you do miss the direct impact, this should still slow down them long enough just to get some easy damage. And the next step we have Trooper Fist, the dash attack. With this, you'll dash about 9 or so meters, grab an enemy and launch them up in the air. This will also grab multiple enemies in a row and then launch them up. When you do grab them, it does about 25 damage, and then launching them up will do 65. It has a 12-second cooldown, making it good for an opener or to catch those enemies trying to get away. It does great damage and is very useful for enemies that are closer together. It's also good for a combo with the orb shot to get in that extra damage and slow down the enemies, because that pierces and slows as well. And then topped off with the basic attack will make short work of the enemies nearby. And now probably what he's most known for is the Kraken Impact. That is his ultimate. This will launch you up in the air and you have a moment to choose what area of effect you want, doing 100 damage. And this will mark enemies nearby for 5 seconds. What that mark means is that when they are below 20% health, they will instantly die, and your ultimate will charge up again, as you can see on the right, and then killing someone with the mark will refresh your ultimate. So this can be used many times in a row as long as that debuff is still there. It's about 8 seconds long, and getting a kill will refresh it as long as they have the mark. This is best used during the middle of a fight, but honestly is not a bad opener either. Don't worry about getting a kill off the initial slam, as you do have a couple seconds to get kills afterwards. Next up we have his passive, Ceaseless Charge. What this is it will reload your basic weapon, as well as give you bonus health depending on the ability used. So using your abilities, right now I have 1 out of 3 bullets, instantly reloads, and I got 50 health for that. The hook shot and the orb will both give you 40 health, and this does stack. And then the dash as well as the ultimate will give you 50 health per use. So the abilities can be used in a pinch for some quick health if things aren't going well. And then last up, Bucky does have a team up with Rocket. Rocket's a fairly common character these days, so you should pay attention to it. When you're within his radius of about 20 or so meters, you get infinite ammo and you shoot faster. You do have to stay within the radius in order to get the benefits, otherwise you'd no longer have them. So as long as you have a good Rocket teammate, this is something you should be able to take advantage of fairly often. And now that's the gist of his abilities. Let's hop into some games to further explore the Winter Soldier. Bucky isn't a sniper like Hawkeye or an annoyance like Iron Fist. I think he functions best just behind the tanks, similar playstyle to Squirrel Girl. He does fire his basic attack rather fast, but only has 3 bullets. So chaining in abilities will let you keep firing rapidly and doing chunky damage. Playing centrally with your team allows for the orb to shine by slowing down targets, so your team can deal easier damage, and the hook shot will pull in enemies so your team can eliminate them very quickly. His dash attack is a good opener or closer for a fight, especially with a cluster of enemies. The launch does the most damage, and a couple of quick shots will be an easy way to win that fight. While with your team, a general combo sequence should be similar to 3 shots, use the orb, 3 shots, hook shot, 3 shots, and then dash. By this point, your cooldown should be starting to reach close to the finish, so chaining these abilities will let you keep firing as much as possible. You do not need to land the abilities, as just using them will replenish your bullets. The Winter Soldier can fit into most teams and feels consistent while playing. He's anti-dive, anti-tank, and with his ultimate can dive the enemy backlines as well. He does fit in well with most players, and if you're good with flicks or are used to shooters, aiming for headshots will be the way to go. If that's not your style or isn't something you can always do, aiming for the chest and legs of the enemies will still do some decent damage. Regardless of how you play, you will need to get into a tempo of firing 3 shots and then using an ability. Keeping an eye on the enemy healers before you start your ult will definitely be the best way to play as well. 100 damage is not a lot, but if the enemy healers are just out of damage range, they will be able to heal their team before you can get the kill on the marked target. Also be sure to keep an eye on the enemy team, use the hook shot on tanks who are out of place and make it even worse for them. You can also use your dash attack to get them even further out of place, and this is useful for getting picks on the strays. Then having a large target up close should make it easier to actually get those headshots in. Remember though, with projectiles and Marvel Rivals, you do need to aim just slightly to the right of the target for best chances of actually hitting. For foes like Hawkeye and Hela, as they are snipers, you won't be winning many fights if their distance is over 30 meters. There's no need to shoot at them aside from adding pressure to save yourself or to try to get them to panic a bit. If they are closer within the 20-meter range, you have a better chance at winning. Don't be afraid to use his abilities though to live longer within a fight or to get away. Overall, get some games in to get used to Bucky, and then after that, you should feel comfortable using him in most cases. And that's a wrap on this Winter Soldier Marvel Rivals Ultimate Guide. Tell me, did I miss anything, or do you have any tips of your own you think more people should know? Leave it in the comments below. And hey, hit that like button if you're still watching, subscribe for more videos like this if you haven't already, and stay tuned for the next one.